Okay, welcome back. In this video I'm going to show you how I bind the receiver to the radio. Spektrum receiver, Spektrum radio. Before I get to that, I want to mention two things. The covering on the airplane and the wings and all is in excellent condition. I'm not sure what the covering is. It does feel a little bit different than the monocoat that I've used before. But in any case, there's no need to touch it up. So I don't need to get out a heating iron or anything like that. The cover is in excellent shape. The other thing is that the hinges are both glued and pinned. They're tight. You need to check them, make sure they're flexible enough. But other than that, there's no need to CA any hinges. And so in this video, I'm just going to talk about the receiver and getting it ready. Later on, I'll talk about the telemetry module and how to get that working with the receiver, but that's a separate video later. So the receiver I'm going to use is the AR6210. AR6210. There it is right there. The AR6210 with its satellite antenna. I always like to use satellite antennas when I do nitro powered airplanes. So what I'm going to do is bind that, and I'm going to have the throttle servo standing by so I can center that throttle servo. The other thing is I want to make sure that the direction of the throttle servo is correct, because if the direction of the throttle servo is not correct, then we have to bind it again. So we're going to check that. So the first thing to do is put the throttle servo in the throttle channel, and in this case you follow the little diagram right here, and it shows that the black wire of the servo wire to the throttle channel is down, and it goes in the second slot like that. The first slot is for the bind and data. Your receiver comes with a little bind plug like this, and so what that means is you go ahead and put that in the first slot, and let's see. Okay, gotta get it in the right direction. There we go. Okay, so the bind plug is in the first slot. The throttle servo is in the second slot. Now, before I do anything else, I got to get the radio ready. So I'm going to turn the radio on, and DX7, DX6, DX9 all work the same way here. It's on model number 11, and that's my float airplane. So I'm going to press both the clear and the back button simultaneously. Oops, I'm not. Okay, there we go. And come down and say, add new model. Yes, I want to add a new model. Okay, takes you into the system setup, where I'm going to change the model name. The model type is always correct. It's an aircraft by default. Okay, so this is model number 12. And I'm going to call it the Sonic High Wing. Okay, so model number 12, Sonic High Wing. That's good. Now, the other thing I want to do is the aircraft type. The aircraft type is normally one aileron in the wing, and the tail has two ailerons. Well, since I'm going to have separate channels for the wing, I have a couple of options here. Okay, I can have dual ailerons like that, but I really want flaperons. Okay, flaperons allow the ailerons to also act as flaps. This has a big, large aileron, long aileron, so it'll work well as a flaperon, I hope. So I'm going to use flaperons. Okay. And I'll go through all the other okay. Not sure. Oh, flight mode 1. Okay. Why did it say? I don't know. All right, I'll check out later why it said flight mode 1. I'm going to turn that off. This is a brand new model. I don't know why it spoke to me. Now that the radio is set, the model is configured, minimally configured. We'll go through all the other details in a later video. I've got the bind plug in the bind port, got the throttle in the throttle port, and I'm going to go ahead and hook up the battery so that it's attached to the switch here. So and I always label any kind of plug like this, so that says off side of the switch to the battery. Okay, and then make sure that the switch is off. I'm going to plug the battery on side of the battery switch to the gear channel, which is the second from the end. Okay. So now I can turn this on and off as I need easily by just flipping the switch. So I'm going to flip the switch, go off camera. I want to be at least 3 feet away from the receiver to the transmitter. Before I bind it, I'll press the bind button down, which is this button right here, and turn it on, and you'll hear it say binding and a bunch of other things. So here we go. And it's flashing. Gonna get way over here.
Binding. DSMX 22 milliseconds. Bind complete.
Okay, bind complete. So the first thing you do after that is turn the receiver off, and so you don't forget, immediately remove the bind plug, and now we're ready to go. Okay, so now that that's done, I want to make sure that the throttle channel is centered, and to do that I'm going to move, because it's a Nitro powered airplane, I'm going to move the throttle trim all the way down to its -100 position. And I'm going to turn this off. When I turn off a receiver, I always like to turn off the radio and then just turn it back on. Okay. And so with that on, I'm going to go ahead and turn the receiver on. Okay. And that doesn't center the throttle, because the throttle is all the way back with the throttle trim all the way down. But if I move the throttle trim up to 50% here, okay, and that centers this servo. Okay, this servo comes with a unique kind of arm that I plan to use, because the arm has this little black piece, or this little white piece right here, that goes on the post of the servo, like that. And then the arm goes on like that and becomes adjustable. Okay, so you can adjust this arm back and forth, and there's a little kind of ratchet kind of thing there that allows you to adjust the distance from the center of the servo arm, or center of the servo post. So I'm going to screw that on, and with that in place, okay, I'm going to be able to tell because this is going to sit in there, let's see, in there like this, okay? So that servo arm is going to be pointing like this on the inside the aircraft fuselage, and the tube for the push rod for the throttle is sitting right there. So it's going to sit just like that. So now I can tell just by the way that's moving that in order to open the throttle, the push rod goes that way, and that right now the throttle's up at 100%. So this is backwards. That's what I wanted to find out. Okay, so I'm going to turn the receiver off. I'm going to go into the function list, pressing the control once, go to servo setup. Instead of travel there, I'm going to change travel to say reverse, like that. Select it, and then reverse the throttle. So I scroll down to where it says throttle, press that, and it says caution. Are you sure you want to reverse the throttle? Yeah, I'm sure. So yes. Then it gives you a warning which says rebind in order to get your failsafe right, and that's very important. So okay, I know I need to rebind. Okay, so I'm going to turn that off. Then I'm going to get my bind plug and put it back in. So the receiver's off, the transmitter's off, bind is back in. Okay. So now I'm going to do the bind process again. This is back, everything's set, ready to go. I'm going to turn the switch on. Okay, it's flashing. Get back over here.
Binding. DSMX 22 milliseconds. Bind complete.
Okay, bind is complete. Now, first thing I do is turn off the receiver. Turn off the transmitter. Okay, pull this out. And now get my servo ready. Remember, it's going to sit in the airplane like that. And I want that arm to go this way, okay, to go forward, because that's what opens the throttle. So that's ready. I'm going to turn this on. Okay. And now I get full throw in the correct direction, just like that. The other thing I'm going to do is, by the way, that beeping you hear is the timer starting and stopping. Okay, I'll show you how to do timer later. So the other thing I'm going to do in the servo setup is move the throttle to exactly 50%. Go into servo setup, and notice here where I have the in travel, I'm going to go down to the throttle, and normally it's 100 and 100. All of them default to 100 and 100. Well, you don't need 100% throw of that arm to control the carburetor arm. So I'm going to reduce that to, in my experience, about 60% works, or at least 60% is a good starting point. So now you can see that the throttle travel is plus or minus 60. And so what you'll see is now, let me back out of that. Now you'll see that it has a much smaller throw. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm going to turn off that clicking. So I'm just going to change the timer. The setting is 1 time to inhibit, but I'll show you that later. Okay. And okay. So that now allows the throttle to be moving in the correct direction, and I've limited the throw of it. Okay. I've limited the throw of it to 60%. Now that 60% I'll adjust once we get the motor on and all that kind of stuff. You'll see that later. But it's a better starting point than 0 or 100%. So we have the receiver bound. I had to bind it twice. That's why I wanted to show you the throttle. Turn this off, and we're ready to move on to the next video. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned.